Captain David Miller stood at the observation deck of the Earth Defense Force flagship, Resolute, watching the spectacular sight of alien ships moving in perfect formation alongside human vessels. The year was 2157, and humanity had never felt more secure in its position among the stars. The massive ships of the Galactic Concordat, 7 species united in peace, filled the space around Jupiter's orbit. "Captain, the Arcadian ambassador requests your presence at the command briefing," said Lieutenant Emma Carter, her reflection appearing in the reinforced glass beside his. She was new to this ship, but had already proven herself as one of the sharpest tactical minds in the fleet. "Tell me, Lieutenant," Miller said, turning to face her, "what do you make of our allies?" He gestured to the graceful ships of the blue-skinned Arcadians and the crystalline vessels of the Solari that sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight. "They're powerful, sir, but sometimes I wonder if we rely on them too much," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of concern. Miller nodded, understanding her reservation. In just 30 years since first contact, humanity had integrated deeply into the Concordat's military structure. Earth's ships now served proudly alongside alien fleets, protecting the galaxy's spiral arm from various threats. The command briefing was held in the Resolute's main conference room. Holographic displays showed the latest intelligence about the Vex, a hive mind species that had emerged from unknown space 6 months ago. The Arcadian ambassador, a tall, elegant figure with luminescent markings on his blue skin, stood before the assembled officers. "The Vex have destroyed another mining colony," the ambassador announced, his translator converting his musical language into English. "They show no interest in communication, only consumption of resources and expansion." Miller studied the tactical display. The Vex used biological ships, massive, looting vessels that could repair themselves and adapt to damage. They had already overwhelmed several outer colonies belonging to different Concordat species. "Earth's factories are operating at maximum capacity," Miller reported. "We've added 50 new ships to the joint fleet in the last month alone." He felt pride in humanity's contribution. While other species had more advanced technology, none could match Earth's industrial output and speed of production. After the briefing, Miller walked with Emma through the ship's corridors. The Resolute was a testament to human engineering. Not as elegant as alien ships, perhaps, but sturdy, reliable, and built for war. Crews of men and women worked efficiently at their stations, maintaining the massive vessel that had become their home. "Lieutenant," Miller said, "I want you to start running battle simulations. Focus on scenarios where we might need to operate independently of Allied support." He couldn't explain the unease that prompted this order, but years of military service had taught him to trust his instincts. "Sir," Emma looked surprised, "you think we might need to fight alone?" "Just a precaution. If there's one thing I've learned about humanity, it's that we should always be ready for anything." Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's eye. "Alert! Unknown contact detected at the edge of sensor range. Signature matches Vex configurations." Miller rushed to the bridge, Emma close behind. The massive command center buzzed with activity as officers reported to their stations. Through the main viewport, he could see their ally ships also responding to the alert, their formations shifting with practiced precision. "Show me," Miller ordered, and the main screen displayed a massive Vex vessel, its organic hull pulsing with weird bioluminescent patterns. It was larger than anything they'd encountered before. "Sir," Emma called out from her tactical station, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from our ally ships." She frowned at her display. They're moving to screening positions." Miller watched as the alien vessels of the Concordat shifted their formation, placing themselves behind the human ships. At the time, he assumed it was a tactical decision, trusting Earth's sturdy vessels to take the brunt of any initial assault. He didn't know then that this small movement was the first sign of what was to come. He couldn't have guessed that humanity's greatest test wasn't the enemy advancing toward them, but the Allies slowly withdrawing behind them. "All hands to battle stations," Miller ordered, his voice calm and steady. "Let's show our friends how humanity handles a fight." The lights dimmed to combat settings, and alert sirens began their steady warning tone. As his crew prepared for battle, Miller stood on his bridge, watching the massive Vex ship approach. This would be the first major engagement with the enemy, but not the last. Not by far. The real test of humanity's strength was still to come. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 3 human ships were destroyed, but the massive Vex vessel had been driven back. Captain Miller stood in the Resolute's medical bay, watching doctors treat the wounded crew members. The victory had come at a cost. "Sir," Rachel Brooks from Intelligence walked in, her face tight with worry. She was holding a data pad, and Miller could tell by her expression that something wasn't right. "I need to show you something." They moved to a quiet corner of the medical bay. Rachel pulled up several communication logs on her pad. "I've been monitoring our allies' transmissions. They're using new encryption, but I broke through." She paused, looking around before continuing. "The Arcadians, Solari, and Meridians are talking about something called Protocol Sanctuary." Miller frowned. "I've never heard of it." Neither had I, but look at these ship movements. Rachel showed him a map of the galaxy. Small dots of light showed Allied fleet positions. 3 races are slowly pulling their forces back from the front lines. They're doing it so gradually that it looked like normal patrol movements at first. Before Miller could respond, another alert sounded through the ship. Lieutenant Emma Carter's voice came over the comm. "Captain to the bridge. Multiple Vex signatures detected." When Miller reached the bridge, the tactical display showed 5 Vex ships this time, all as large as the one they'd fought earlier. The Resolute's crew moved with practiced efficiency, but he could see the fear in their eyes. "Where are the Arcadian heavy cruisers?" Miller asked, noticing gaps in their defensive line. "They say they're having engine troubles, sir," Emma reported. "The Solari fleet is also reporting technical issues. They're falling back to defensive positions." Miller exchanged a look with Rachel, who had followed him to the bridge. This was no coincidence. "Get me Admiral Foster," Miller ordered. Within moments, the stern face of William Foster appeared on the main screen. The Admiral commanded all human forces in this sector. "I see it too, Miller," Foster said before Miller could speak. 3 alien fleets withdrawing under various excuses. The Meridians just announced they need to recalibrate their weapons. The Admiral's voice was heavy with sarcasm. "Sir, should we confront them?" "Not yet. Let's see how far this goes." In the meantime, Foster's eyes narrowed. "I'm implementing Emergency Plan Delta. All human ships are to form into independent battle groups. Trust no one but Earth vessels." The next few hours were tense. The Vex ships advanced slowly, their biological hulls pulsing with eerie light. Miller watched as more and more Allied ships reported problems and withdrew from the line. "They're leaving us exposed," Emma said quietly from her tactical station. "The gaps in our line are all in front of human-held positions." Miller walked to the front of the bridge, watching the distant shapes of alien ships moving away. Years of joint exercises, shared victories, and supposed friendship were unraveling before his eyes. "Sir," Rachel called out, "I've decoded more transmissions. The Arcadian High Command sent orders an hour ago. All their ships are to withdraw completely within the next 48 hours. The Solari and Meridians sent similar orders." Miller felt a cold anger growing in his chest. They weren't just being abandoned. They were being left as bait to slow down the Vex advance. "Open a channel to all human ships in the sector," he ordered. When the channel was ready, he spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Captain Miller. As of now, we fight alone. Form up on my position. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The bridge crew straightened in their seats. They had all seen the signs now, understood what was happening. But instead of fear, Miller saw determination in their faces. "Lieutenant Carter," he turned to Emma, "you had been running those independent combat simulations. Time to put them to use. Show me what we can do without Allied support." Emma nodded, her fingers flying over her tactical display. "Already on it, sir. Redirecting our ships to cover the gaps. We'll need to fight smarter, not just harder." As Miller watched his crew prepare for battle, he thought about all the joint training exercises, the shared meals with alien commanders, the promises of eternal friendship between species. All lies, it seemed. But humanity had fought alone before. They had faced extinction-level threats and survived. They had clawed their way to the stars without help. "All hands," Miller's voice rang through the ship, "prepare for combat. Today we remind the galaxy why humans never quit." The Vex ships grew larger on their screens as Earth's vessels moved to face them. Behind them, their former allies continued their quiet withdrawal, leaving humanity to face the coming storm alone. The next morning brought the sight no human wanted to see. Across the vast darkness of space, thousands of alien ships activated their engines in unison. Their hulls glowed with beautiful colors: the blue light of Arcadian drives, the crystal shimmer of Solari vessels, and the green pulse of Meridian warships. But there was nothing beautiful about what they were doing. They were running away. "Record everything," Captain Miller ordered from the bridge of the Resolute. "Future generations need to remember this day." His ship's cameras captured the massive retreat as their former allies fled from the coming storm. Lieutenant Emma Carter stood at her tactical station, her face pale but determined. "Sir, I count over 3,000 Allied ships leaving. They're not even trying to hide it anymore." The emergency channel crackled with desperate calls from human colonies and outposts. "This is New Eden Colony. Our Arcadian defenders just left without warning. Frontier Station 6 calling any Earth ships. The Solari fleet just jumped out. We're defenseless. Mining Base Theta requesting immediate support. All alien allies have abandoned their posts." Admiral Foster's face appeared on the main screen, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Captain Miller, get your battle group to the Newton colony. They're directly in the path of the Vex advance now that the Meridians have pulled out." "What about the civilian colonies in Sector 7? Miller asked, knowing the answer wouldn't be good. "We can't protect them all," Foster said, his voice heavy. "Start evacuation where we can. The rest." He paused. "The rest will have to defend themselves until we can reach them." Rachel Brooks rushed onto the bridge with new intelligence. "Sir, decoded transmissions show this was planned months ago. They called it the Preservation Protocol. Sacrifice the human systems to buy time for their own defenses." Miller's hands gripped the command rail so hard his knuckles turned white. "They used us. All those years of alliance, they were just setting us up as their shield." The ship shuddered as it entered faster than light travel. They had to reach Newton Colony before the Vex did. Through the viewing ports, they could see other human ships moving with them. Smaller, less advanced than their former allies' vessels, but crewed by people who wouldn't run. "Message from Earth Defense Command," Emma announced. "All human ships are ordered to fall back to defensive positions around our core worlds." She looked up at Miller. "Sir, that would mean abandoning at least 12 outer colonies." Miller stared at the tactical display, watching the waves of retreating alien ships. Each dot of light represented thousands of crew members who had trained, fought, and celebrated victories with humans. Now they were leaving without even a goodbye. "Captain," Emma's voice was urgent, "the Defiant is requesting help. They're cut off by Vex forces near Saturn's rings." The Defiant was another human warship, caught in the wrong place as their allies' withdrawal left huge gaps in their defenses. Miller made a quick decision. "Plot an intercept course. We're not leaving our people behind." He opened the ship-wide channel. "All hands, battle stations. We're going to rescue the Defiant." As they changed course, the true scale of the betrayal became clear. The alien ships weren't just withdrawing. They were taking everything with them. Space stations built together, defense platforms, even some of the long-range communication relays. "Sir," Rachel reported, her voice shaking with anger, "the Arcadians are stripping resources from the joint bases as they leave. They're taking everything they can carry. Miller watched the tactical display as more human ships moved to protect their colonies. They were badly outnumbered now, but not a single Earth vessel joined the retreat. Humanity stood its ground. Lieutenant Carter, send this message to all Earth ships in range. This is Captain Miller. Today we learned we stand alone. But alone does not mean defeated. Protect our people. Hold the line. Earth stands unbroken. The Resolute's engines roared as they pushed toward the trapped Defiant. Behind them, the last of the alien ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving their former human allies to face the Vex alone. Contact in 5 minutes, Emma reported. 3 Vex ships between us and the Defiant. Miller nodded, his jaw set. Today we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't need allies to survive. We never did. He looked at his crew, saw the same determination in their eyes. We fight for Earth, for all humans, and we don't run. The Vex ships grew larger on their screens as the Resolute charged forward. The Great Withdrawal was complete. Now came humanity's true test, survival. The rescue of the Defiant cost the Resolute dearly. 3 days after the Great Withdrawal, Captain Miller walked through his damaged ship, checking on repairs. Burn marks scared the walls, and crews worked non-stop to fix broken systems. But they had saved their fellow humans, and that was what mattered. Captain to the command center immediately. Admiral Foster's voice came over the ship's speakers. This is not optional. Miller found not just Admiral Foster waiting in the holographic command center, but also Dr. Linda Pierce, Earth's leading expert on alien biology. Her usual lab coat was wrinkled like she'd slept in it. "We found something," Dr. Pierce said without greeting. Her eyes were bright with excitement despite her tired appearance. "The Vex aren't as unbeatable as we thought." The room darkened as she brought up a hologram of a Vex ship. "Look at their biological structure. Every time we hit them, they adapt and heal. But," she zoomed in on a particular part, "they can't adapt to everything at once." "Explain it simply, Doctor," Admiral Foster said. "They're like an immune system. Hit them one way, they become immune. But hit them 3 or 4 different ways at once." She smiled. "They get overwhelmed." Miller understood immediately. Like catching a cold while having a broken arm. The body can't heal everything at the same time. Exactly. Dr. Pierce pointed to data scrolling beside the hologram. And humanity has something none of our former allies had. Variety. We never standardize our weapons like they did. Every Earth ship is a little different. Admiral Foster's hologram turned to Miller. "This is why I called you. Your battle group is going to test this theory. Lieutenant Carter's new combat tactics might be exactly what we need." Emma Carter had been quiet until now, studying Dr. Pierce's data. "Sir, if we coordinate our ships to hit single targets with different weapon types." She moved to the tactical display, her fingers flying over the controls. "We could overwhelm their adaptation ability." "That's not all," Dr. Pierce added. "I've been studying their communication patterns. The Vex share a hive mind, yes, but it has limits. When we killed that first big ship, the others took almost 6 minutes to adapt. There's a delay we can use." Miller watched as Emma combined this new information with her tactical displays. Their chances were still bad, but no longer impossible. "Admiral," he said, "request permission to implement immediate changes to our weapon systems. We can modify each ship in the battle group to use slightly different frequencies and ammunition types." "Granted," Foster nodded. "But there's more." "Show him, Doctor." Dr. Pierce brought up images of Earth's factories, every industrial center on Earth, and our colonies is running at full speed. We're building ships faster than ever before, and each one is a little different from the others. "No standardization means no single point of failure," Emma said, understanding. "The Vex won't be able to adapt to everything at once." Miller felt hope for the first time since the withdrawal. Humanity's greatest weakness, their lack of advanced alien technology, had become their strength. They didn't have fancy standardized weapons. They had thousands of different designs, each one unique. "There's something else," Admiral Foster said. "Captain, your ship recorded the Allies' retreat. Analysis shows they were scared, not just of the Vex, but of how fast humans were learning and adapting. They saw something in us that frightened them." "We're unpredictable," Emma said quietly. "We change too fast for them to understand." Miller looked at the tactical display showing Earth's forces spread thin across space. They were alone, but not helpless. Never helpless. "Dr. Pierce," he turned to the scientist, "how quickly can we implement these new attack strategies?" "I've already sent the data to all ship commanders," she smiled. "Humans are good at quick changes." Admiral Foster's hologram stood straighter. "Captain Miller, your battle group leaves in 6 hours. Head to the Newton Colony sector. Show us if this new approach works." As the meeting ended, Miller walked with Emma back to the bridge. Repair crews had finished their work, and the ship hummed with renewed power. "Sir," Emma said as they walked, "I've been running new battle simulations. With Dr. Pierce's discovery and our varied weapons." She paused. "We might actually win this." Miller nodded, watching his crew prepare for their next fight. Humans had never needed standardization or perfect unity. Their strength was in their differences, their ability to change and adapt. "Send word to all ships in the battle group," he ordered as they reached the bridge. "It's time to show the galaxy why humanity survived every challenge in our history. We adapt, we overcome, and we never, ever give up." The Resolute's engines powered up, ready for their next battle. Around them, other Earth ships formed up, each one different, each one ready to fight. Humanity stood alone, but they stood unafraid. 2 months after Dr. Pierce's discovery, the Vex reached Mars. Captain Miller watched from the Resolute's bridge as the massive alien ships approached the red planet. Earth's outer colonies were either evacuated or lost. Now they defended their home solar system. "Multiple Vex signatures," Emma Carter announced from her tactical station. Her voice was steady despite the threat. 5 capital ships, 12 smaller vessels. They're using new attack patterns." Miller nodded grimly. The Vex were learning too. "Status of our battle group." "All ships report ready," Emma replied. "Each one has different weapon modifications like Dr. Pierce suggested. No 2 ships are exactly alike." Rachel Brooks rushed onto the bridge with new intelligence data. "Captain, we just lost contact with the Europa base. The Vex are moving faster than we expected." The bridge crew fell silent. Europa base was one of their strongest outposts, if it had fallen. Admiral Foster's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Miller, the Vex have broken through our outer defenses. They'll reach Earth in less than a month, if we don't stop them here." "Sir," Emma spoke up, "my new battle plan might work. It's risky, but—" "We're past playing it safe," Foster cut in. "Show me." Emma's tactical display lit up with her plan. "We let them think they're winning. Draw them in close to Mars. Then hit them from all sides with everything we have. Different weapons, different ships, all at once. They won't be able to adapt fast enough." Miller studied the plan. It was dangerous. They would have to let the Vex get dangerously close to succeed. "One more thing," Dr. Pierce's voice came over the comm. She had been working nonstop in her lab on Mars. "I found their central control point. Each Vex ship has a nerve center. Hit that, and the whole ship goes down." Miller looked at his crew. They were tired, but determined. Humanity had lost colonies, stations, and too many good people. But they hadn't lost their will to fight. "Admiral," Miller said, "request permission to execute Lieutenant Carter's plan." Foster was quiet for a moment. "Granted. But Miller, if this fails, there's nothing between them and Earth." "It won't fail," Miller said firmly. "Humanity doesn't know how to give up." The next hours were tense. The Resolute and its battle group slowly pulled back, making it look like they were retreating. The Vex followed, their bioships pulsing with confident energy. They're taking the bait, Emma reported. All ships in position. Miller watched the tactical display as the Vex ships moved closer to Mars. Years ago, he had trained with alien allies, learning their advanced tactics. Now he realized those lessons had limited human thinking. Their own strategies were better. Dr. Pierce, he called over the comm. Are you ready? My team has mapped every Vex nerve center, she replied. Sending targeting data now. And Captain, good hunting. Miller took a deep breath. Everything depended on this moment. All ships. Execute attack plan. Hit them with everything we've got. Different weapons, different angles. Don't give them time to adapt. The space around Mars erupted with fire. Human ships attacked from all directions, each one using unique weapons, laser arrays, plasma cannons, kinetic strikes, electromagnetic pulses. Dozens of different attack types hit the Vex ships simultaneously. They're trying to adapt. Emma shouted over the noise of battle. But their systems are overwhelmed. They can't handle all the different attack types. The largest Vex ship twisted in space, its biological hull unable to heal fast enough. The nerve center Dr. Pierce identified glowed brightly under the assault. Focus fire on their nerve centers, Miller ordered. Don't let up. One by one, the Vex ships began to die. Their adaptive defense couldn't handle humanity's chaotic, varied assault. Where their former allies had failed with standardized weapons, Earth's forces succeeded with their mix of technologies. When it was over, the space around Mars was filled with floating pieces of Vex ships. The Resolute had taken heavy damage, but they had won. Message from Earth Defense Command, Rachel announced, her voice shaking with emotion. The Vex fleet is in full retreat across all sectors. We did it. We actually did it. Miller looked at his tired but proud crew. Send word to all ships. The Sol system stays in human hands. We proved what humanity can do alone. As repair crews worked to fix battle damage, Miller thought about their former allies. They had run away, thinking humanity too weak to survive. Instead, they had helped create something stronger, a human force that stood unbroken against impossible odds. The battle for Mars was over. But the war would continue, and humanity was ready. 1 month after the Battle of Mars, Captain Miller stood in the war room of Earth Defense Command. The walls showed hundreds of tactical displays, each one tracking the movement of human ships now pushing into Vex space. Operation Thunderbolt is ready, Admiral Foster announced to the gathered commanders. Thanks to Lieutenant Carter's tactics and Dr. Pierce's research, we're not just defending anymore, we're taking the fight to them. Emma Carter stepped forward to explain the battle plan she had developed. Gone was the nervous tactical officer from a few months ago. In her place stood a confident strategist. The Vex think in patterns, she explained, pointing to the main display. But humans, she smiled. We think in chaos. Each battle group will attack differently. No 2 assaults will be the same. Dr. Pierce added her findings. Their hive mind is their weakness. When we destroy one ship, it takes exactly 5 minutes and 43 seconds for the others to adapt. That's our window. Miller looked at his fellow ship captains. Every one of them had lost friends when their allies ran away. Every one of them had fought in desperate battles to protect Earth. Now it was time to show the galaxy humanity's true strength. The Resolute will lead the main attack, Admiral Foster said. Captain Miller, your ship has the highest kill count against the Vex. Show us how it's done. 3 days later, the largest fleet of human ships ever assembled jumped into Vex territory. The Resolute led the charge, its weapons modified with Dr. Pierce's latest improvements. Multiple Vex signatures ahead, Emma reported from her tactical station. They're moving to defend their main hive cluster. Miller watched the massive organic ships move into formation. A few months ago, this sight would have terrified him. Now he saw their weaknesses. All ships, execute attack pattern Carter 3, he ordered. Remember your training. Hit them with everything, all at once. Don't give their hive mind time to think. The space around them exploded into action. Human ships attacked from every direction, each one using different weapons. Some fired traditional missiles, others used energy weapons, and some deployed new devices developed by Earth scientists. "Their first ship is down," Emma called out. "Starting 5-minute countdown. That's our window." Miller watched his tactical display as the battle unfolded. Humanity had learned to fight smarter, not just harder. They used the Vex's own strength against them. "Second ship neutralized," Rachel reported from her intelligence station. "Their communication patterns are breaking down. They can't adapt fast enough." The battle raged for hours. Human ships took damage, but they kept fighting. The Vex tried to adjust their tactics, but they couldn't match humanity's unpredictable attack patterns. "Sir," Emma's voice was excited, "we're detecting energy surges in the main hive cluster." Dr. Pierce was right. They're calling for help from their other forces. Miller smiled. This was what they had waited for. "All ships, execute Operation Thunderbolt." Final phase. Across Vex space, other human battle groups attacked different hive clusters at the same time. The Vex couldn't adapt to multiple different attack styles at multiple locations. Their hive mind, trying to process too much information at once, began to fail. "Energy readings are going crazy," Rachel reported. "The hive mind is overloading." Miller watched as the massive Vex ships began to move erratically. Without their central control, they couldn't coordinate their actions. Some tried to flee, others kept fighting, but none could fight effectively. "Message from Admiral Foster," Emma announced. "All sectors reporting success. The Vex fleet is in full retreat. Not just here, everywhere." The bridge crew cheered. After months of desperate defense, after watching their allies run away, humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had driven back the Vex using their own unique strengths. "Send word to Earth," Miller ordered. "Operation Thunderbolt successful. The Vex threat is neutralized." Hours later, as repair crews fixed battle damage, Miller looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, their former allies were hiding behind their borders, thinking themselves safe. They had run away when things got hard, leaving humanity to face the threat alone. But humanity had done more than survive. They had won. Without advanced alien technology, without powerful allies, they had beaten an enemy everyone thought unbeatable. "Captain," Emma approached with a datapad. "We're getting signals from multiple former allied species. They're requesting to reestablish diplomatic contact." Miller looked at the message requests from the races that had abandoned them. "Tell them they'll have to wait," he said. "Earth has more important things to do than talk to cowards." The Resolute's engines powered up, ready to head home. They had proved what humanity could do alone, and they would never forget it. 6 months after Operation Thunderbolt, Earth had changed. Captain Miller stood at the window of the newly built Earth Defense Headquarters, watching ships take off into the bright blue sky. Each vessel was unique, carrying different weapons and systems, humanity's new strength. "The Arcadian ambassador is requesting another meeting," Rachel Brooks said, walking up beside him. She now wore the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, but her intelligence training still showed in her sharp eyes. "What's their offer this time?" Miller asked, though he already knew. "The same. They want to rebuild the alliance." The Solari and Meridians sent similar messages. Rachel smiled slightly. "They seem worried about how strong we've become." They had good reason to worry. In the months since the Vex retreat, humanity had grown more powerful than ever. Earth's factories worked at full speed, building new ships and developing new technologies. But unlike their former allies, they kept their variety, their chaos, their uniqueness. Lieutenant Emma Carter, now Commander Carter, walked in with Dr. Pierce. Both women had become heroes after the war, their strategies and discoveries helping save humanity. "The new defense network is ready," Emma reported. "Every colony has its own unique protection system. No standardization, just like we planned." Dr. Pierce nodded in agreement. The Vex won't be able to adapt to our defenses if every system is different, and neither will anyone else. Miller turned from the window. In the large room below, Admiral Foster was meeting with Earth's Defense Council. The holographic displays showed human ships patrolling their borders that now extended far beyond their original territory. "Message from the Meridian High Command," Rachel said, checking her datapad. "They're offering to share their advanced drive technology in exchange for alliance." Miller remembered how those same Meridians had fled, leaving human colonies defenseless. "Tell them thank you, but Earth develops its own technology now." They walked together to the council meeting. The room fell quiet as Miller entered. He had become a symbol of humanity's strength, the captain who never ran. "Report from the outer colonies," Admiral Foster announced as they sat down. 3 new shipyards completed, each one building different classes of ships, all with varied weapon systems. The tactical display showed humanity's new defense strategy. Instead of relying on standardized systems like their former allies, they embraced chaos and variety. Every colony, every ship, every weapon was unique. The Solari sent another message, Rachel reported to the council. "They say the Vex are rebuilding their forces. They're suggesting we need their help for the next war." Admiral Foster laughed. "The same help they gave us last time." The council chamber filled with determined faces. They had learned their lesson about depending on others. Speaking of preparation, Emma stepped forward. "The new battle tactics are ready. We've trained our crews to think independently, to adapt to any situation. No more following alien doctrine." Dr. Pierce added her own report. "Earth's research stations are developing new technologies every day. But we're keeping our old ones too. The more variety we have, the stronger we are." Miller looked around the room. Just a year ago, these same people had worried about losing their alien allies' support. Now they stood confident and independent. "One more thing," Rachel said. "The Arcadian Supreme Council sent a warning. They say our rapid military growth is concerning to the galactic community. Send them our response." Admiral Foster said, "Earth stands alone by choice now, not necessity." As the meeting ended, Miller walked with Emma and Rachel to the observation deck. The sky was full of ships, human ships, each one different, each one a symbol of their independence. "The Vex will return someday," Emma said, watching the ships, "and others might come too." Miller nodded. "Let them come. Humanity doesn't need allies who run away. We've proven what we can do alone." Rachel checked her datapad one last time. Final message of the day. "The Galactic Concordat is offering us leadership position if we rejoin their alliance." Miller smiled, remembering how far they had come. From abandoned allies to a force that made their former friends nervous. Humanity had found its strength in independence, in chaos, in being uniquely human. "Tell them thank you," he said, watching Earth's ships patrol their space. "But humanity stands unbroken, unbowed, and alone, just the way we like it." The sun set over Earth's new shipyards, its light reflecting off hundreds of unique vessels. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had lost their allies but found themselves. And they would never forget the lesson. Sometimes standing alone makes you stronger than standing together.